Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for all of you. I have on Zoom with me right now Genoveva Rossi, and she has quite a good resume on her hands. She played the Nun Shambler and the Alpha Zombie in Army of the Dead, Pitchfork Molly in Z Dead End, Lisa, is it pronounced Sissone? I think. In Attack of the Killer Chickens. Yes. Black Backwoods Beaver model in 100 Acres from Hell. Inmate in Orange with the New Black. Geo and Jacko Slasher, just to name a few. But how are you doing, Genoveva?
Very good, very good. I hope you're doing well. Have a nice Memorial Day.
Yes,
coming up on that shortly.
Yes, I'll be going. I just packed up some of my stuff. I'll be going home tomorrow back to Pennsylvania because I'm in my place in Maryland. So be going back to visit my parents for the holiday weekend.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Hopefully we'll get some nice weather. I don't know if we're supposed to, though. It looks like it might be a weekend.
Yeah, I know we had a major thunderstorm here last night, I believe it was. So it was pretty crazy. It wasn't the night before, but it was pretty crazy.
Yeah. The weather report's not looking great for this weekend, but what can you do? What can you do?
Mother Nature at its finest.
Yeah, speaking of Army of the Dead, I actually just had a screening in Philadelphia with the other zombies from the film. We did it at the Eastern State Penitentiary, which is a really fun penitentiary in Philadelphia. It's like a museum now. They no longer have prisoners there, and they do like haunts there. And it was interesting because, believe it or not, we did the screening for Army of the Dead there. And I have a little bit of a history with the Eastern State Penitentiary because we filmed Death House there a few years ago.
Nice. That is really cool. And I have yet to see Army of the Dead. I wanted to see it this weekend, but things just got so busy. But that is definitely, it is on my watch list. But I do have some questions about it. I heard so many good things about it, and I can't wait to actually divulge that myself.
It's kind of not your typical horror movie. It's kind of like a horror action kind of heist movie. Right. I thought it had a really cool soundtrack, actually.
Nice.
Like some really different kinds of songs, a little bit of a flash from the past with some 80s and 90s kind of songs in it. And I think it was pretty well acted. It had so many different characters in it. It had a real ensemble cast. It was almost difficult to keep track of everybody's name. There were so many characters.
Oh boy. Now, did you ever meet Dave Bautista on set?
Yeah, he was on set with me at certain points. Yeah. Although I would say usually when you're on set with professional actors on a film that's like a $90 million movie, they're very focused on their scenes and their dialogue, and they're not always that friendly.
Absolutely.
You know? Which you have to understand because the person is trying to stay in character.
Absolutely. It makes perfect sense. And I mean, let's put it this way. If you're doing a movie and you have X amount of days to shoot it, and we're giving you X amount of money to get it done in those amount of days, you're going to be wasting time and money just if you don't film it all in that amount of days. So it makes sense that, a big budget movie, they want to be on schedule at all times and not have to go over it.
Yeah, and I think more or less always you tend to go over budget in these big budget films because I know they had to reshoot a few scenes, and I think they even had to recast a character in the film and reshoot the scenes with another actress.
Oh wow, that's crazy. And that takes a lot of extra time and a lot of extra funds as well. So it really puts a damper on the movie as well, but it's what's best for the project, really.
Exactly right. So yeah, they ran into some extra innings because I think they filmed part of the movie in Mexico City and then part of it in Atlantic City. And then I think they unexpectedly went back to Mexico City to reshoot some scenes.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a whole process. Making a movie always takes a lot more time, money, and energy than you think it's going to take.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of that, I'm directing and producing and working on a film with Cluck Cluck Productions called Attack of the Killer Chickens, the movie, which right now we're in post-production on.
Okay.
It's a feature film based on a short film that I wrote and directed. I star in it. with an amazing cast of actors and with my executive producer, David Stein. He stars in the film. He's the executive producer and also a real collaborator on the film. So yeah.
That's exciting. I can't wait to see that. I love horror movies. I love indie horror movies. It's just something about that low budget feel is like so relaxing. I love it. And I make low budget movies myself. We have one that we're starting to film in July, and I love the low. It's very stressful, but I love the feel of a low budget movie because you know that it's not that it's money making it. It's the love and passion of the filmmaker.
It's true. And, and people do find like this campy, charming quality in these low budget films that you don't always get with a high budget film.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It has that campiness that, that people just really seem to enjoy. You notice with these B-rated movies that people have their favorites and they literally watch them over and over and over again. Yeah. Like some people watch these B-rated movies like 40, 50, 100 times.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I love like the classic 80s campy style, like the Friday the 13th, the Halloween. Like they're so iconic, but they believe it or not, they are low budget movies.
Oh yeah, and then it's amazing. Like a movie like Friday the 13th has a more loyal following than like The Shining.
Yes.
Even though The Shining we would maybe think of as maybe being overall maybe a more cinematic movie.
Right.
But there's just something about Friday the 13th or Texas Chainsaw Massacre or a lot of these movies that just captivates people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know what it is. I don't even know it from my personal perspective. And I'm sure a lot of people don't know it from their personal perspective, but there's something about it that draws you in.
Exactly right. And then also there's probably something about the actors and actresses in the horror genre that really draws you in too. Yeah. Horror more than any other genre, I think, has an extremely loyal fan base.
Absolutely.
More than most genres, honestly. Yeah. People just really get obsessed over horror. We got people watching the movies dozens of times. Yeah. And then we have these people going to these horror conventions all over the country and all over the world.
Right.
And getting all this memorabilia and autographs. I'm always sending out autographed pictures and DVDs to fans. It's like no other genre is like that. If you're in drama, you don't go to drama conventions. You don't send out autographed pictures of yourself for drama as much, or comedy.
Right.
Just horror movies. People are literally obsessed with horror movies. They really love them.
Absolutely. So the first question I got for you, how did you get your start into acting?
It was always something I was interested in, and I did some acting in grammar school, high school, college, theater, short films, and then it was just kind of like a natural segue for me to start acting in independent films.
Nice. That's awesome. It really is. And the indie film community is just so loyal, so faithful, like a family, really. It's a knit family.
We all know each other, and it's just a matter of time before you all work with each other too.
Absolutely. Like me and Greg Gilbert, we're really good friends. We've known each other for over 5 years now. I've been on his show 5 times this past January, and I was on the phone with him the other day, and he said, and I already had the friend request from him, and he mentioned, he's like, oh, and Genoveva Rossi, she's gonna send you a friend request. I highly recommend interviewing her. And and you told me he recommended me to you. So that's how we connected, which is, again, the family aspect. It's that indie feel. Like, it's really great. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And he's an awesome guy, and he's been involved in a number of films that I'm involved in, mostly James Balsamo films. But I think he's going to be involved in the upcoming film The Dead End. And I think he's also involved in Witches of the Sand, which is a UK-based film that I just did recently. He gets involved in a lot of films in different capacities. He is extremely dedicated to the horror genre. He's a big fan of it.
Absolutely. He's a really good guy. And like I said, I've known him at least 5 years, and we don't talk as much as we used to because I've just been so busy lately, and he's been, busy on his end and that. But we talk it still on occasion, and I would like to start talking to him, on a not everyday basis, but like, maybe couple times a week, compared to like the once every other week type of thing that we've been at now. but he's really a good friend of mine. He's a big wrestling fan, of course. So he used to be a big wrestling fan, definitely of the 70s and 80s. So we talk about that a lot. So he's a good guy, a good guy. So the next question: how like did you audition for Army of the Dead? And if so, can you walk us through the auditioning process?
Well, Army of the Dead had an interesting thing. I had seen on Facebook that they were casting zombies for a movie, and I didn't really realize what kind of movie it was, so I just submitted my pictures, and I had to input my information into like a database online, pictures, resume, all this kind of stuff. And then they asked me to submit more pictures of myself because they weren't sure. They needed like full body, like maybe bikini shots. They needed some headshots because their zombies have a very particular type of person that they were looking for: body type, face type, all that kind of stuff, maybe age bracket. And then I ended up coming the first day, which I guess was an audition process where we met Zach Snyder, and we also trained to be zombies. So we went to like zombie training 101, where you learn how to, move like a zombie, make sounds like a zombie, make your eyes look like a zombie, and just like, and be a zombie, and be believable on camera. I had played a zombie in some independent films before Army of the Dead, so that was helpful. But I did learn a lot through the zombie boot camp, if you will, where we were all training to be zombies together. So I guess that was a bit of an audition process. I'm not sure everyone that came out, made it as a zombie. Not everybody maybe had what it took to be a believable zombie on camera in Army of the Dead. So we did that. And then afterwards, I was on set a few days where I played two different zombies. I play a Shambler zombie where I'm wearing like kind of a nun outfit. And I'm in a scene where the characters are going down a corridor towards the beginning of the movie in Las Vegas. And I'm in like a kitchen area. And then later on, I'm an alpha zombie, which are the zombies that move faster and appear to be a little bit more intelligent. I look a little bit more like myself, I guess, meaning that I have my hair parted in the middle and it's blonde, and I'm wearing like a ripped up half shirt and some ripped up jeans, and I'm with a group of zombies near a pit.
Nice. That's awesome.
And we had fun. We all had a lot of fun playing zombies. It's very hard to recognize yourself in the film, though, I have to be honest, because we showed up like 1 o'clock in the morning and we were in makeup until maybe like 9 o'clock in the morning, between makeup, hair, and wardrobe. So you don't really look like yourself anymore at the end of that. And then they also use some CGI on all the zombies. So when you're watching the movie, it's really hard to recognize people that you know in it because they look like zombies.
Right. And that makes sense because, I mean, even if they use a lot of like the practical effects type of stuff, like you still got to use the CGI to make them really look like zombies, especially in a higher budget movie. Because I mean, like I said, I haven't seen it yet. I was aiming to look at it today, but it's probably gonna be this weekend. I mean, the fact is that these zombies, like, you need them to look real, and you can only do so much on a high budget, especially when you have a lot of people that are going to be zombies. You can only do so much with everybody. Like, you can't.
Yeah, and you don't want people to end up looking like just some people in zombie makeup at the end of the day. You want them to
be half-assing it.
It's like a $90 million movie. You don't want it to look half-assed.
Right.
So unfortunately, probably like nobody's mother is going to be able to recognize their children in the movie. It's very hard to even recognize yourself to a certain degree. I think I ended up recognizing myself like maybe by my hair, really. And things like that, maybe my stature or things, or like where I remember standing or where I remember being and what scenes I remember being in. But otherwise, or maybe what outfit you were wearing, like what zombie outfit. It's very difficult to recognize yourself because they put a lot of prosthetic makeup on you and all this other stuff, and like plus the CGI. It's like a whole process. And at the end of it, I remember people weren't even able to, you couldn't even unlock your phone using facial recognition, software. because you
Crazy.
look so different.
Yeah,
You know?
that's insane.
Yeah, that's something that happens a lot as an actor. Is sometimes you're wearing makeup and facial recognition stuff is not going to work on you because your appearance has been so altered. Like I was just working on a film recently, where it was like a werewolf movie, and our werewolf character, with all the makeup and stuff, you become unrecognizable as well.
Yeah.
And that's something that happens in the horror genre, is that you have this, a lot of times you're in a movie, and with the makeup is an important, the special effects are really an important part of low budget and high budget horror films.
Absolutely.
These are movies that kind of take life to another level. And makeup is an important part of it. I remember when I was working on Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blood Mania, when we filmed that in Calgary, Canada, which is a low budget film. We have Dave Trainer, who worked on Fargo, the TV series, and he's doing your makeup, and it's involved. It's really involved. It took a very long time to get all the blood and makeup off after we shot my scenes.
Crazy.
Sometimes it was even a little nauseating, because sometimes the special effects are so good, you really almost feel like you're in a pool of blood.
Right. Yep. It's fun. Like I know one thing a lot of people tell me is that I act better dying than I do delivering dialogue. I'm like, I guess that's a compliment.
Well, not everybody can die well in a movie. Yeah, it's like a certain thing, because sometimes you watch a movie and people aren't very realistic about it.
Right.
Because it's definitely something you haven't done before.
Yep.
Most likely, unless you've had a near-death experience or something like that.
Right.
That's the only other way I guess you would, you would, or if you believe in reincarnation, I guess.
Right. Now, did you die in Army of the Dead?
Well, if you think about it, I was dead in Army of the Dead.
Right. But like, did you get shot or anything?
No, not that you see on camera. I don't want to give too much away about the film.
Right.
But there are a lot of zombies in the movie, and not all of them, a lot of them don't die,
Absolutely.
Or don't really have anything particularly violent happen to them. They're just hanging out, living their zombie lives, really.
Absolutely.
It's kind of an interesting universe. I don't want to give the movie away too much, but it's a really cool movie, and there are a lot of zombies in it that come from kind of all different walks of life, and then really kind of embrace all the different things that could be going on in your life when you're living in Las Vegas and you suddenly become a zombie. You could be an Elvis impersonator. You could have just gotten married. Maybe you were at the gym. Maybe you were in the middle of using the slot machines.
That's hilarious.
Maybe you were swimming in the pool. Maybe you're on the beach having a good time, and then all of a sudden you become a zombie and you're stuck in that outfit for all of eternity now.
And it's funny because that's like, if there was a zombie apocalypse, that would be what happened. People in Vegas would be playing the slots and they die or whatever, they're reanimated or whatever, that would happen, stuff like that. Like that stuff, like it makes you think, if the zombie apocalypse ever happened, would this be what would happen?
Yeah, so I guess think about that when you're getting dressed in the morning. Is this what you want to be wearing if there was a zombie apocalypse,
Right.
You might not think of, like, the characters might not have thought of that when they got dressed that morning before they became zombies, and then you're stuck in that outfit. And maybe it's not an outfit you want to be stuck in for the rest of your life, or the rest of eternity, your zombie life, if it will, but I guess you're not the same person once you become a zombie. That's not something that we ever explore, is your consciousness when you go from a human being to a zombie. Is there anything left of you as a human when you're a zombie? Any memories or any emotions? Or are you like completely reborn as a zombie? It's like a philosophical thing.
There's a movie idea. Explore how does the zombie mind work,
Exactly. And what happens to the human being when that person becomes a zombie? Like, is your soul and your personality and your brain just kind of cast aside, or does it merge with the zombie-ness?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's always something I've kind of always wondered. And then I always think of like this whole zombie thing it's almost like, you kind of going to hell in a sense.
Yeah.
Because here you are like trapped in this deteriorating body, and you don't seem to really have any control, and you're not the person that you once were. And I honestly think like Army of the Dead, in my opinion, is almost like a morality play and brings up a lot of issues of karma. And I think some almost spiritual themes that Zach Snyder put in the film. We have to remember that Army of the Dead is the first film that Zach Snyder worked on after losing his poor daughter in a very tragic way.
Right.
And that may have influenced the film, because I've watched it twice already now since it came out. And I really feel like it does bring up some issues of right and wrong and spirituality.
Right. That's a good point, though. That's a very good point.
And that's something I think, and I'm sure he was very influenced, because how could you not as a parent? Because losing your child is the most devastating thing that can happen to a human being, of course.
Absolutely. One thing I always said was that a parent shouldn't have to bury a child. You know what I mean? That it should be obviously you shouldn't. You wouldn't want death at all, but like obviously the parent should never have to bury a child. It should always be the other way around. Like the child should outlive the parent type of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and any parent would probably gladly die in the place of their child. You know. Absolutely. So, it was amazing to work with Zach Snyder after he had overcome something like that. And then to be working on such dark subject matter in a sense. And I think he did bring a little bit of like maybe some spirituality and some issues of karma and other things into the film that I think are there that maybe not everyone sees. Like certain characters have different motivations as to why they want to get into Las Vegas and to why they want to deal with zombies and do these kinds of things. People are motivated by different things. We see the chiller. Some people are motivated by money. Some people are motivated by different other things. I actually kind of thought the one character that's motivating them to go into Vegas might be almost like a devil character, that's like tempting them towards evil. And things like that,
Yeah, absolutely.
And, because like in the Bible, we always hear like money is the root of all evil. And that kind of, I feel like, is almost the theme of Army of the Dead,
Yeah, absolutely.
What's more evil in the film, our quest for money or the zombies?
Right. Exactly. That is the truth. Like, I mean, money, like you need money to survive, obviously. Like you can't eat without money. You can't live in a house without money. You can't have clothes without money. You can't drink without money to an extent, I guess. But so money is the root of all evil, because greed is one of the 7 deadly sins. But so it is true, which is that's a good point, because I did read the synopsis. I seen the trailer of Army of the Dead, and it's like they do go on a heist for and it is, what is more evil? Is it the zombies? Is it the greed for the money? What is motivating man to become evil at this point?
Well, and then they bring up a little bit of an issue, like, and we see this in a lot of horror movies that, like, Night of the Living Dead and other films, is that human beings a lot of times betray each other and backstab each other, but zombies don't do that, so it's like maybe we all need to take a long look at ourselves and see who really is the monster and who really is the moral, person.
And even like The Walking Dead, they always said that The Walking Dead wasn't talking about, that title itself wasn't talking about the zombies per se. It's like the Walking Dead, the ones that are surviving are the Walking Dead at the point, because they're some of them are evil, some of them are friends, and then they turn on their friends, and just for survival, they fight for the survival. And is it The Walking Dead really about the zombies, or is it really about the Walking Dead within us living in this apocalypse type of world?
Well, that's the thing, is like, when you're living this apocalyptic world, you have to be careful that, when you're battling monsters, that you yourself don't become a monster in the process.
Absolutely. So how many days were you on set for Army of the Dead?
I think around maybe 5.
Okay.
Nice. So not a lot, because what you have to keep in mind too is that it takes a lot longer to film these scenes than you realize.
Right, and Sorry. You're probably getting the makeup on longer than you are filming too.
Sometimes that happens, and they were like long days where you could be on set for like 17 or 20 hours. And you're laying around taking a nap in your zombie makeup, you're eating your food with your zombie makeup on, it's like, and yeah, you show up maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, you're doing makeup and they're getting everybody ready until like 9. And then we're shooting maybe for another 8-10 hours.
Oof.
And it's like a whole process. And you only spend like a small portion of the time actually shooting the movie. And then getting all the makeup off is its own process too. They were very secretive of us not being able to leave with the makeup on. You had to take a very long shower at the end of the day and get all that makeup off. Yeah. And taking the shower to get the makeup off and getting out of wardrobe and getting your hair back to normal was a long process as well. Absolutely. It was pretty tedious. People don't realize that in the horror genre, how tedious a process it is with the makeup and the special effects that we're required to use a lot of times in these movies, Yeah. It gets a little crazy, like how many buckets of blood we go through and how long it takes to get everybody made up to be their character in the film, and what an art form it is that the makeup artists are involved in. It's an art form, really, getting everybody prepared.
It absolutely is, and it's very fascinating. It really takes a special technique to do, and I mean, you can learn it in college and all that, but it really is an art form that not everybody has the patience to do, because it's not like you're doing it just on yourself. You're doing it on another human being, and you don't want to hurt them either.
Yeah, you want to make it as comfortable as possible, but it always is kind of uncomfortable. Like I was just watching an interview with Jim Carrey when he did The Grinch That Stole Christmas, and he said he almost didn't finish the movie because of how tedious it was to be in the makeup chair getting made up for 8 hours every time they shot.
Oof. Yeah.
And you don't realize how involved it is going through 8 hours of makeup to be, the Grinch That Stole Christmas. And then you still have to act in the movie and perform and do your job, and move around and everything. And that adds like a whole other dimension to it. Planet of the Apes, we saw that. A lot of like these really classic films, it takes a long time to get ready, and then you have to perform when you're ready. And then sometimes it's very much a challenge, the comfort of being in the makeup and trying to eat and drink when you're in the makeup and all these other things that are kind of involved in it that you didn't realize maybe when you signed up for it. It's much more involved than you realize. So it was interesting though, because like I said, when I applied for Army of the Dead, I didn't realize it was Army of the Dead or a Zach Snyder film until I was there the first day.
Right, exactly. And it's like it's just like when you see the final product, the movie magic on the screen, it's like it might have been uncomfortable, it might have been late nights and long days and tedious makeup and performing in it, but you see that final product and it's like it was all worth it. It came out good.
Yeah, it was. For all of us, we were talking about Monday night when we were at the screening at Eastern State Penitentiary, talking about what an amazing and unique and once in a lifetime kind of process it was to be on that film set and to work with Zach Snyder and his amazing team and crew and cast on a film like that. And just to be, in a film like that, it's amazing because it is actually like the #1 movie in America right now too. And it's interesting. So, you go from applying to be a zombie in a movie, not knowing what it is, to being a zombie in the #1 film in America. And that's the journey of an actor, is that so often we do these films, you don't really know how small or how big the movie is actually going to be.
Absolutely.
And you kind of just go through the motions and you do it. You're putting, your eggs in all these different baskets, and you don't really know what it's going to hatch into later on. And I think you don't really want to dwell on it. You just want to kind of put out as many baskets and as many eggs as you can. And just kind of see what comes of it. Put your best self out there into as many projects as you can. You want to do a really consistent and good job with everything that you do as an actor. And then hopefully these projects take off and become something big,
Right. And like it could be the smallest project in the world, like very low budget, but you don't know if that project could become $1 billion franchise. You know what I mean? Like it's possible. Like one small low budget film that has maybe a $300,000 budget or $3,000 budget, for example. Like it could be the smallest project, but it catches and captivates the audience to the point that it becomes this cult classic. And there's a lot of movies that are like that. Sleepaway Camp, Friday the 13th, Halloween. Like they all became these iconic classics that were literally very, very, very low budgeted.
The Blair Witch Project is a
Blair
great
Witch
example
Project,
of that too.
exactly.
Yeah. Because like what is it, like a $20,000 movie,
Yeah.
shot handheld, doesn't even have particularly good cinematography, of course, that's part of the charm of it. And it became like a huge theatrical release kind of movie. You just never know with the movies that you're doing, and that's even sometimes even non-horror movies like Clerks or The Room. Right. You just never know when you're making these movies. Every movie, movies that we do have a life of their own when we're completed with them. You might only be on set for the movie for like a day or a couple of days, but your performance could live on for a very, very long time.
Absolutely.
You could be on set for 4 hours and this could be a movie that people are watching for the next 20 years. You just never know.
And a good example of that is Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. There was this couple camping in the woods and the girl gets slammed against the tree in her sleeping bag, literally, probably 1, maybe 2 day shoot. And, she's on screen for maybe, a couple seconds or so, or a couple minutes. And that's the death scene that is probably in most people's top 5. You know what I mean? Like,
well, death scenes are important. People always seem to remember, like, especially if you have like a really original, unique, and exciting death scene, that could really be something that's memorable in a movie for sure. Like my friend Jim Crud's helicopter zombie, and Dawn of the Dead, being remembered and how you're killed in a movie is its own kind of notoriety, of course,
Absolutely.
That's why it's important. It's good that you die well in movies.
Right. So how did you become part of Z Dead End?
That's an interesting one. Well, it's been a process. I met Robert Arestro, the director and writer, a few years ago, and we kind of shot a couple scenes so that he would kind of have like I guess something to show investors. And then I've been talking to him for a couple years about the film, so and about my character, and it kind of just evolved slowly, and we've been getting more and more people involved in the film. And I think he just announced, if I'm not mistaken, today that Kane Hodder will be involved in the film.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and a bunch of really cool people are going to be involved in the film. But that was like an announcement I think I saw like an hour ago on my Facebook. Kane's a great guy. I remember my first horror convention I was a guest at was the Mr. Hush Weekend of Horror, and Kane Hodder was there. Nice. And he came over and he was like, Genoveva Rossi, you're here too. And I was like, I had never met him before, but he pronounced my name right. And that's the kind of person Kane Hodder is.
That's awesome. I heard a lot of great things about him. So that's really cool. I interviewed quite a few people that worked with him, and they all had nothing but nice things to say about him.
Oh yeah, I'll be working with him on a bunch of films, including Jasper, nice. Z Dead End. We were in Death House together. I was on set with him with Death House. Probably more movies than that, but those are the ones that are popping in my head right now. Right. Really, really great guy, and he and myself are really dedicated to health, fitness, and nutrition, which I think makes a really big difference in our lives as well.
Yeah, I was watching his documentary on Shudder the other day, and I mean, his fire story, like, it literally had me in tears. Like, I'm emotional. I'm a very emotional person, but it had me in tears because, like, imagining what he went through and all that, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Like, it was so heartbreaking, like, hard to believe, like, that a human actually went through all that. And he told that documentary was well put together. So if anybody watching this hasn't seen Kane Hodder's story, I believe it's called To Hell and Back, if I'm not mistaken.
But it's not a depressing story; it's a comeback story,
right? Exactly. So I definitely recommend people.
He comes back, better, stronger, and more successful than ever before.
And he's still done fire scenes, and including the one in Friday the 13th Part 7, which was an amazing fire stunt. It broke a number of records at the time. And he still did that after being, scarred and, basically, set on fire and hospitalized in the burn unit and everything.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's frightening. It's frightening. Yeah. Well, I guess Kane believes in facing your fears and overcoming them, and things like that. Yeah. So it is an inspiring story. And then when I met him too, the first time, he was also discussing about how when he was young in school, he had been bullied a lot and picked on. Like maybe there was something different about him or something like that. And he wanted people to realize that just because you were bullied in grammar school or high school, I was bullied myself, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful. Your life is in grammar school. It is in high school. It's beyond that. A lot of the people that bully you in grammar school and high school are probably just losers anyway. Screw them.
Pretty much. And then when you become it's those losers and those bullies that come to you asking you for your autograph or a picture with you.
Well, I know Johnny Depp and Winona Ryder had said that. Yeah. Like Winona Ryder, I think
it happened to me. I was bullied, and when I came out with my first movie, I had people come to the premiere to support it, ask for my autograph and a picture with me and everything like that. And so it does happen. And then it's like, oh, I'm so sorry for bullying you. It's like, I'm just, okay, but you don't forget it because it hurts. It really does hurt.
And then I think so often we always remember what was done to us, but we don't always remember what we do to other people, and maybe that's human nature. And then we all need to pause and maybe look at ourselves more deeply to see, what kind of pain we've caused other people in life and try to avoid that.
Absolutely.
Right? As possible. We want to try to live a compassionate existence as much as possible,
Absolutely. So you spoke briefly earlier about Attack of the Killer Chickens, the movie that's coming out about. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Well, it started out as a short film that I shot and went to over 40 film festivals called Attack of the Killer Chickens. I star in it. I write it and I produced it with an amazing cast of people. And it was only about 6.5 minutes long, but it won, I think, like 7 or so awards at different film festivals. And then we decided, let's make it a feature. I actually did the short as a proof of concept for a feature. And then luckily I was able to get our executive producer, David Stein, behind us. And we formed Cluck Cluck Productions and decided to make it a feature film, which was a really exciting process for me to go from working on my first short film to working on my first feature film.
Yeah.
But, when life, throws you an opportunity, you go with it, and it was amazing working with such an amazing team of, my producer, David, Cluck Cluck Productions, all these wonderful actors, the cast and crew. Making a film isn't about one person. It's really a team of people that are making that film,
Absolutely.
It's almost like we're in a platoon and we're at war and we all have to work together, and you can't have any weak links. Everybody's got to be pulling, their own work. And then the director is kind of like I guess the platoon leader, and you have to fearlessly lead the people along into making the film. And everybody has to have confidence in you and your ability and your vision and your dream, your passion in this project. And Attack of the Killer Chickens, the movie, pays homage to a lot of movies that I grew up loving, like Planet of the Apes, Night of the Living Dead, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, all these crazy movies that I loved as a child, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. It kind of pays homage to a lot of that kind of crazy stuff.
Right.
And it was really wonderful working with all of my friends, essentially, that I've accumulated through my working on over 108 films since, I guess, approximately 2012. Right. So, I've had a pretty busy film career since I got started. And then I had a pretty good idea exactly what people I want to be part of my feature film, based on working with them as an actor. And I think it's really cool as an actor to direct a film. And it's really cool as a director to act in a film, because I think being on both sides of the camera really makes you a more well-rounded creative person in the film industry.
Absolutely. It's so true. So we know you've also been part of Orange is the New Black. big, a hit series. Like a lot, like that's everybody loves Orange is the New Black. So what was that experience like?
Well, I remember, I think I'm in a cafeteria scene eating macaroni and cheese while two lesbian characters fight each other. That's what I remember. Yeah, I remember that vividly. And it was an interesting show to be a part of, because you almost feel like you are in prison, because you have to go and you have to give up your purse and all your personal items and your clothes, and they outfit you in prison garb from head to toe. You don't even get to keep your underwear.
Oh boy.
You have to wear prison underwear and
God.
prison socks and prison shoes, and you have like your prison hairstyle that you have. So that makes you feel a little bit like you're in prison, I would say, right off the bat, wearing that prison outfit.
Right.
And all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty interesting. Yeah. But yeah, so it was like a unique experience. And then I've also been on Gotham 3 times, I think, which for whatever reason I end up being like, I guess, one of these dark, seedy Gotham characters. So I fit into the Gotham universe pretty well. So I ended up in Gotham a couple times. That was fun.
Nice.
And awesome. I got to be on the Deuce before the Deuce ended. So that was cool.
Awesome. That's awesome. And I saw that from your IMDb, I did see that you were on Gotham. That was actually my next question, what that experience was like. Yeah, like that's another big show, that's really, popular at the time,
I remember doing a lot of overnights on Gotham.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And for people that don't understand, overnight means like you show up in the afternoon and you finish the next morning.
Yeah.
And you don't sleep until you get home.
Yeah, that's a long day too. Like it really is. It's a grueling day, because it's not like you're probably tired on top of that, and then you have to memorize what your lines are, do the best performance you could possibly do, because that's what your job is. So
it's really intense. And then and I remember being on some films where some of the actors will complain about how long the hours are and things like that. And and unfortunately, people think by when we watch these movies that acting is a lot more glamorous than it actually is. And there are some glamorous elements, but usually the glamorous elements happen after the movie is completed and we're on the red carpet at the screening for the movie.
Right.
The glamour doesn't actually happen when you're working on the movie. It doesn't happen until like months or like a year later when the movie is released.
Yeah.
When you're actually working on the movie, it's very not glamorous. It's a lot of long hours, and it can be extremely tedious. It could be a lot of heat and sweating, or cold and shivering, a lot of standing around, waiting. Acting is not for everybody. It takes a very patient person to become an actor.
Absolutely. Couldn't even say it better myself. Absolutely true. So is there any scream queen or horror like icon that you haven't worked with that you would like to share the stage with, like beyond film with?
I've always liked to work with Barbara Steele, which I think I'll be working with her on a film coming up down the road that Robert Restro is directing. So I look forward to doing that, because I always liked her old kind of classic horror films like The Pit and the Pendulum and all these other wonderful movies, Black Sunday, that she was in. She's a very classic kind of horror actress. Definitely up there with Vincent Price and Peter Cushing and all these other really exciting people. So that would be pretty cool to be able to work with. I wish I had worked with Vincent Price, but he died a long time before I began acting. Or it would have been nice to work with Christopher Lee. He lived for a long time. I just didn't end up working with him though.
Right. Darn.
Darn. Dang nabbit. Yeah, life is fleeting. We're not going to be on this earth forever. And absolutely. Even though somebody like Christopher Lee lived for 100 years, it just didn't seem long enough,
Yep, absolutely. So the last question I got for you, it's all about you. Any projects that you would like to promote to our listening viewing audience that you have in the works?
Well, look for me in ZDN. ZDN, Z Dead End. Excuse me, I can speak today. Look for me in the upcoming film Jasper. I just did a werewolf film that'll be added to my IMDb soon. It's an untitled project right now. Let's see. I'm going to be in a bunch of films coming up that I can't even talk about right now. I'll be filming a couple things out in Seattle in a couple months as well. So people can always follow me on my social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Genoveva Rossi. Look for me. Look for me on my IMDb. A lot of cool films I'm excited to be, working on. Like I just finished Central Authority during the pandemic. I did Witches of the Sands during the pandemic, which is a UK-based film that I'm looking forward to seeing. I always kind of have a steady stream of films that I'm working on and films that are kind of coming out.
Absolutely.
But I can't always talk about the things that I'm working on until, they actually happen.
Right. Makes a whole lot of sense. But I thank you so much for joining me, Genoveva.
Thank you so much for having me, and let's keep in touch, and I hope we end up on a film set together soon.
Absolutely. I would love that. That would be an honor for me, to be honest with you. So I would love to be working with you at some point in the future. That would be so cool. Thank you.
And it would be an honor for me to work with you. So let's make it happen. Keep in touch, okay?
Yep, sounds good. You have a good rest of your day, and enjoy your rest of your afternoon.
You too. Take care now, and have a wonderful Memorial Day.
You do the same. Bye.